Good evening, good evening, good evening. It is a blessing to be with you on tonight. I know on last night, Apostle and I had tried on several attempts to trying to get everything up and running, but unfortunately, it didn't pan out as though we would have liked it. Because I know that most people have now gotten used to our schedule being changed, but sometimes we can't get to our live broadcast as we would like to. So I do apologize if you was looking for us on last night. It wasn't that we wasn't trying to get on. We were, but unfortunately it didn't work out the way we planned. Sometimes we plan things and say what we're going to do, but one of the greatest things that I'm looking at and learning that not everything that we want to do is in God's timing for us to do it. I'm sure tonight that you're looking at the description and it says, let's address the elephant in the room. I'm pretty sure you wonder, what elephant in the room? What are they talking about? The elephant in the room tonight is that we have a lot of things that's going on in the world around us. As you know, if you follow the seat at the table, you know the seat at the table conversation is always going to be something that has something to do with life or things that we're going on, because that's where the seat at the table was birthed. We was talking about issues or things that bothered us, or things that concerned us, or things that tend to have us becoming overwhelmed. And tonight, one of the biggest things that I look at is that it bothers me as a person. It bothers me as a believer. It also bothers me just knowing that we, as God's people and His children, are at odds or disagreement, because one of the biggest things that I look at is that anybody that watch our broadcast or listen to us, you pretty much already know that my favorite scripture is the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof, and they that dwell therein. So one of the biggest things that I keep in mind, that everything belongs to God. You, me, the homes we live in, the cars we drive in, everything belongs to God. So, because of the fact I recognize that and I see that and I believe in that, it bothers me. The other night, Apostle and I was sitting down and we was watching the news. And one of the biggest things that I looked at is that all of these things from the last 8 years, maybe I can go back 8 years, or right before 8 years, things started to change. And nobody can talk to anybody without it causing conflict. One of the biggest things that I look at is that a lot of us tuned in on Tuesday night and we all watched the presidential debate. A lot of people don't want to talk about it because of the fact it irritates them, because everybody got their own personal opinion. So tonight, one of the biggest things that I want us to look at is that whenever we remember, if you can go back as far back as you can remember as a child, especially those of us that are skating around 50's door and have crossed over into 50's, one of the biggest things that we all can remember, that there was a time, no matter who and what they were into, whenever you got in that booth, you made your decision based upon what was fitting for you and your family and what this person was going to do for you, or how is it that their decisions are going to affect your family. But one of the greatest things that I also looked at is that we took a civics class. And a lot of us that took civics class, and if you remember, whenever you look at what was the show, it was on PBS. PBS always gave us educational shows. Those of us that pretty much remember PBS, we all know that PBS always taught us something. You get what I'm saying? And one of the biggest things that I look at is that one of the things that they did was I'm a bill. Where the bill stood outside the steps on Capitol Hill. and it told you how bills and things get passed, right?
Right.
But I think somewhere we've lost what we've learned. And we don't really look at things that's really going on. We look at things and we see short term. We look for things that are flash and microwavable.
Mm-hmm.
As they said, the generation that started coming behind us, they called them the microwave generation.
Right.
Because they felt that everything's supposed to happen instantly.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever we looked at these things and we went through civics, we learned that things don't pass as easy as we seem to think.
Mm-hmm.
We also learned that the president really doesn't have all the power that we seem to think that he has. That there are two houses that are responsible for the things that we want to see change.
Mm-hmm.
Only thing he can do is sign it once the two agree. We know in the word it says, how can two walk together lest they agree, right?
That's right.
Okay, so we don't have a whole lot of agreement going on right about now.
Exactly.
See, if you thought I was going to leave the Bible out of it, you got another thing coming, because we can't do nothing without the word of God.
Right.
But whenever you look at it and think about it, we put so much weight on one person. But we forgot about the other two houses that sit there that person got to work with.
Right.
And the issues that we have, we all put the blame on one.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever we have issues in our own personal life, see, we got to make this personal too. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes we have issues within ourselves.
Right.
And we have issues within our family. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times when we have issues within our family, we can always find fault within the family.
Right.
We can always put it on them. But one of the biggest things, and my husband gonna laugh at this, is that he always say, kid, when I met you, you used to always say, there's your part, their part, and there lies the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest things that I look at is that not always the truth is what we seem to think that it is.
Right.
Because there's always two sides to every story.
Right.
But everybody's going to only give an account of what it is that they want everyone to see.
Exactly.
But it's the hidden things that don't be said. So then now you got to sit there and discern what's the missing pieces.
Right.
And all of us have been given that so that we know what's real and what's not. Mm-hmm. And if we have not tapped into that, we need to learn how to tap into it.
Exactly.
Because only the Spirit of God can lead and guide us to doing what is right.
Exactly.
And I go back to saying that because sometimes whenever you just stroll on social media, you hear the anger, the hostility that everybody has, but nobody goes back to what you've already learned. Mm-hmm. And nobody goes back to what it is that we were taught. One of the biggest things that we were taught in school is that whenever you get ready to go to the polling site, that nobody goes behind that curtain but you.
Exactly.
Nobody hit those buttons but you. But whenever you go in there, make sure that you look at people that are going to speak for you. So it doesn't matter what divides us. It should not overtake us. And right about now, there are so many things that's overtaking us. People are worried about their children. Here in Florida, we notice that we homeschool, but there's people that we know that have children that go to school.
Exactly.
And for us to be getting text messages from the county stating that schools are on lockdowns, I remember whenever we had an incident at the school that I went to and the fear that I had. The fear had overtook me so much, I was willing to walk out of high school because of the fact I didn't want to be in a place that I did not feel safe. So my heart goes out to children that are having to deal with these things. See, whenever I said that we was going to address the elephant in the room, these are the elephants that's in the room. And how much of wisdom are we using? And how much of discernment are we using? And how much are we asking God to lead and guide us in the things that we hear, we see, and that we do? And how many of us, it says, but seek ye first. But if we seek God first, now that means whatever decision decision that we make, we have now put him in the forefront. So it doesn't matter who we as people pick. It's what God says is going to happen, will be done. Exactly. So whenever we was talking, and Apostle was talking about prayer, and I think on Wednesday night he was talking about when we say thy will be done. A lot of times we have issues with what God's will is. But I think sometimes, Apostle, that we tend to forget that there's a season for everything. Exactly. We have our winter season, as we used to say. It's our winter season. We have a season that we share tears. We have a season where we mourn. We also have a season where we're victorious. But in those seasons, exactly what are we doing in those seasons? Are we really seeking God's face? Or have we relaxed and felt that everything's going to be okay? Because one of the biggest things that I keep in mind, that the world is always changing. We as people are always changing. Our mind, we can get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and be happy and hunky-dory. And I say that because by the time 6:30 comes, somebody could have done teed you off, and it done took you half the day to get yourself back together because something that happened at 6:30 was still on your mind at 12 o'clock. See how quick our mind changed? We was just up at 6 o'clock this morning, thanking God, praising God, praying, and hallelujah, and everything else that we could think and say, and telling God how good He is. But one simple incident can change our whole mindset. The dynamics change. We allow it to change. Give it the power that it needs. We allow it to change the course of where we're going, how we think, how we see it. We allow it to change the parameters and the direction of where we know it is. Go back to what you just said, and then take back over from what I'm getting ready to say. You just said we all holler, it's my winning season. It's my winning season. We are in that winning season. Is it just your winning season because everything seemed to be going your way, because you seem to be getting everything that you have asked for, you have prayed for? You are now reaping the harvest that you have sown. We have all of those songs that are out there, but you forget about the time where you mourn. You forget about the time where you cried. Mourning and crying are a little bit different when you look at the definitions of the two words. You forget about the time where you had to sow the seeds. You look at the time where you had to till the ground. You look at the time where you had to plow the ground. Plowing and tilling is two different things. You forget about the fact that there was some hardships. You forget about the time where you had to tear some things down. There was some hard work that had to go into it. You're not looking at all of that, but even in that, that's still your winning season because there's some work that had to go into it. So you're still winning. There's some things that had to happen. There's some transitions that still had to take place. So it was on winning season just because it seemed like everything became easy, but you failed to realize that was a process. You didn't want to go through the process, but you wanted all of the benefits that came from the end of the process. You wanted all of the harvest, but you didn't want to do the work to get the harvest. You wanted all of the blessings, but you didn't want to do anything that it took to get the blessings. You wanted God to make sure that everything was good, but you didn't want to do no praying. You didn't want to do no suffering. You didn't want to go through anything. You didn't want no hardship. You didn't want no loss. You didn't want no death. You didn't want none of those things. So go ahead. The elephant in the room is there. Same thing when it comes down to everything else that takes place. You didn't want no storms to take place. You didn't want no flooding. You didn't want nothing to happen. You didn't want no loss. But it was your winning season as long as all was good. You didn't want no fussing in your marriage. You wanted the blessed marriage. You wanted the good marriage. You wanted everything to go good. You wanted the emotions. You wanted the good sex life. You wanted the best sex life. You wanted the best love. You didn't want nobody to mess with your wife, mess with your husband. You wanted the good pregnancy. You didn't want no hard pregnancy. You wanted to make sure that when you had the delivery, you had a good delivery. You didn't no hard delivery, had a good birth, didn't have to worry about a C-section and all those other things, no complication during the birth of your child and what have you. You wanted a healthy child. You didn't want your child to have no complications during the pregnancy.
But you wanted to be able to get pregnant on your first try, the first time you and your mate came together. You wanted a man or a woman that never been with nobody. Unfortunately, in this life that we live, a lot of times that don't happen. They told you they wasn't. They told you they hadn't been with nobody. But when they told you that, they didn't tell you that they hadn't been with nobody in 5 years. Not that they hadn't been with anybody at all. They didn't tell you that they were a virgin. They just told you they hadn't been with nobody. They didn't tell you that they had several relationships, but in that relationship, they had been with that person multiple times. So you wanted to be with somebody that had never touched nobody. And that's what you thought because they sold you a dream. Or they say, where I'm from, they sold you a wolf ticket and you bought it. You bought it, you paid for it, you went with it, and everybody around you tried to keep telling you, but that ain't what it was. So go ahead. And we'll address it more as we go along.
No, I still got to do another video. Go ahead.
So, we, even where I'm from, you had the experience where you were at, and that was a shooting at the school in your high school. We had no shooting in the high school where I was at, but we did have a moment at the high school where I was at where there was, racial tension, but we didn't have it. But one thing we did have is that we had the NRA come in and they taught us how. They taught us about gun safety. We got our gun safety certificates and everything, and we had to go through the courses. We had to learn how to shoot. We had BB guns, but we learned rifle safety. We learned gun safety. We learned how to use guns, learn how to use rifles, how to hold them, and all of these other things. We went through marksman classes and all of that because the NRA came in. Our junior high school partnered with the NRA. They came in and sent people down from the state and from the federal level. So we had all of these things so that these things were prevented so that we didn't have shootings and people, kids taking guns and bringing guns to school and had mass shootings and all of these things like you have as of late. When Columbine took place, I was a grown man. I was a parent myself when these things took place. So I wasn't in high school when that took place. I think you was in high school when that happened. I was already out of high school, already had children, already had been married when these things took place. So I didn't have that to worry about being in school. You had to worry about kids being bullied. We had all of those things, but we had things that were there that were in place. Was it still happening? Yes, it was still happening, but you still had counselors that were doing what they could and trying to find out, and there were preventative measures that were there. Now, you really don't have these things that are in place or implemented to where it can happen, and parents are not trying to find out. Their gaming devices, their cell phones, and everything else is there. So they're not as much preventative measures. They're relying on the classroom and relying on teachers and relying on so many other things and social media to now do it. And social media is one of the biggest platforms where you find a lot of things taking place. So where it may not happen in the neighborhood, in the home, in the community, in the classroom, it is happening online. And you have more kids that are finding themselves taking their lives because of what is said on social media than when it was happening in the community, right down the street, right in the neighborhood, around in the community, at the community centers and stuff like that, as it was back in the day, So you don't have that. You don't have brothers and sisters sticking up for one another like it was, or cousins or neighborhood friends, making sure that the young kids in the neighborhood are not being bullied. So, the thing that's in fathers made sure that their weapons were not where their children could easily get it. And the father was the one that was taking their children out and teaching them, if it wasn't taught in school, how to use a gun safely, taking their sons out in the woods and teaching them how to hunt, how to safely use a rifle or use a shotgun before they picked up a pistol or anything like that. So now we having things. So now online, you have all of these games now where you went from Atari, where you had a play gun with an Atari. Now, these games are so radical, and I'm gonna use the word radical because they're so lifelike. They're so real in essence that kids now believe it's fun. They're killing on the game. So they're picking up these things and they're thinking that if I kill you in real life, that you're going to get back up, because this is what the psychology has now found out. Psychology today has found out that the kids are believing that what happened in the game would happen in real life, and that just as these people are getting up from the game, getting up out of the movies, we have so many movies that are now promoting things that shouldn't be, but we're not having the talks because parents are allowing it to happen. Y'all remember back in our day, those of you that are my age, close to my age or older, you knew TV went off. Bum, 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 bum. Flag came across the television. I remember so that. Now that television is all night long, and you have internet television, and kids have their phones all night. You got to fuss and argue with your child now because they want to keep their telephone all night long and they can watch it all night. They hide it under the bed. They take it with them in the classroom. And you have so many laws now that say they can get it. And now they can now create a fake page and say their age that they're really not. And you have so many things that are causing so many problems. And you're saying that a parent shouldn't. And then you got so many laws that will not allow a parent to be a parent, and a parent to parent their child, and a parent to raise their child. And the school now want to raise your child, but you can't raise your child. When you go to now raise your child, it's an issue. A parent can't go to the classroom. A parent can't go to the school. You got to get permission from the school to go see about your own child now. So where mama can just go to the school and see what their child was doing. Mama could go to the classroom and see what was going on with their child. Mama can't do that no more because there's so many implemented to keep the parent out of the life of the child. And don't be a blended family and the mother has to work and the stepfather's a part of the mother's life and he's capable of, boy, the stepfather has no power, no authority, and it doesn't matter what the mother has allowed and the mother has given permission to do. He has no parental rights at all. They now call the mother. And if the mother can't get there, now the child finds themselves in a precarious situation and there's nothing that can be done. And if the biological father has no parental rights or don't want any parental rights and they can't get in touch with that biological father, the child still is in a stalemate. So now you have issues, you have problems. Now there's problems between the school, the blended family, parent, mother. So now they're trying to take the child from the mother, take the child out of the home where they're at, and say that there's a problem. You need to, you need to really go through some counseling. You need to get your child out of the house because you have a parent that's there that I don't believe that's a good mix for your family, and it's issues and problems. So they create issues that are not there. They said that there's some psychological issues that are going on in the home. So you got to be careful. And being a psych major, I have really problems with that. And then when they do sit down, they find out that no, it's not an issue, but they create issues. They create problems. Then they build problems between the child, the parent, the blended parent, and now you got even greater problems. So now there are really issues that are there, but we really don't attack the problems that are there because now you have a home that is actually good. You have actually safe. So now an unsafe environment to actually safe. Now you create issues that were not created. Now you cause problems that were no problems at all because now you give the child an opportunity now to become really resentful, remorseful, disobedient. You begin to create retaliations. You really cause real, let's see, disobedience in the house, disregard. You really cause fights, arguments, disputes. You really cause things to really now get out of hand. Now you have a home where a mother becomes a single parent because they really enjoy that. Especially in black homes. Let's just call it what it really is because they have issues when a black mother now has a male figure in the house. They also have problems when there is a white mother that has a blended home, whether she has a black male, a Spanish male, a Asian male, or another white male in the home with her that is not the biological parent of the child. They create issues. So it's not a racial thing, it is a problem. And don't let the parents of the children and the non biological parent all have good relationships. They create problems within that relationship. So the elephant in the room now causes real issues. There's problems. But here's the other elephant that's in the room. There are teachers at the school that are blended families. And there are no issues with that. And these teachers create issues. And then there are other teachers that don't create issues, but they have to follow the rules that are set by the school, or they won't have a job. And now they take certain information that should have been taught, that can't be taught, and they give misinformation. And you heard Evangelist start off how we all were taught certain civic rules where you have a legislative, executive, and judicial office, and you have a balance of power where the president doesn't have the whole power. You have a House and a Senate, and where these things are there, and then the president have a right to veto, but then it still has to go back to the House and the Senate for another vote. And if the balance of power now says they can pass something that the president has vetoed, but then the president still can come back and still bring it in. But then you still have what they call bipartisan votes and things of that nature when you go and vote and when you inside the voting booth. And y'all know back in the day, if you was a child that was up under the age of 10 years old, your mother could bring you in a little voting booth. And remember, they had the arm that you had to pull down after you pushed the little levers over for who it was and what it was you were voting for. And you had to read what it was that was on there. You had to know what you were voting for. Now everything is electronic. So you have to know what it is that you're going in there for. You have to read everything. And most of the time you don't read it. They had to sign it and then go in after they wrote down and checked off the little things they were checking off. And then they had to go in and click the little buttons and all of those other things and what have you. And they had a curtain behind it. Now there's no, you just have the little that you're going and, a little box that you stand behind so that nobody else can see what it is that you're doing. So everything has evolved. In other words, it has now, transformed. It has now moved to the next level. Time is still the same, but time has advanced in what we're doing. So the elephant is in the room and we're not formulating things that are better, but now we're picking people that now pick the things that you think, as you heard her say, that are in your best interest, but they're really not in your best interest. They're in the best interest for themselves because the interest that's in there for them is the kickbacks that they get that make sure they maintain the lifestyles that they live and the money that they have coming in because of the propaganda that now goes out that says and suggests that I will now be able to make sure I maintain certain laws that stay on the docket and stay on the books that says that you will be able to now maintain said such and thus and so that will allow you to be able to now bypass and be able to get such and thus and so that will allow you to still be able to maintain such this kind of income and be in this such and such a kind of tax bracket while these things look like they're getting this but you're not. Same thing with all of the stuff that happened in the presidential debate that happened on Tuesday. When you look at it, these things now put you in a position where when you look at a tariff is not for your benefit. A tariff is now to put us in position where we pay more money out and the consumer now have to pay more taxes for the tariffs that are there. And you hear the former president say he's going to add more tariffs. Those tariffs cause the consumer more money in taxes, and it causes the rich folk to still make more money because those tariffs now put them in a higher bracket. While whether you're middle class, no class, low class, you are in a position where you're paying more money, not just for eggs, not just for bread, not just for milk, but even when you have to go and buy pencils, you have to go and buy paper, you have to go and buy all kinds of school supplies. You have to buy t-shirts. You have to buy Pampers. You have to buy baby milk. You have to and you have to buy, stitching to where you may have to sew up your child clothes. You may have to go and buy t-shirts, undershirts, underwear, all of these essentials and necessities that you have for your house. You have to go and buy cleaning supplies. All of these things now in taxes go up. Let me help you understand. Not just the gas you have to put in your car, not just go and get your oil change, your brakes, not just making sure you have windshield wipers, windshield wiper fluid. Let's look at across the board the things that are there. Cutting the grass in your yard. So you have to think about all of your paper towels that you have to make sure that you have in your house. So you wipe your hands after you eat. Tissue paper that you have. Your toothpaste. making sure you change out your toothbrushes. So let's look across the board of what they're not really looking at. Oh, that's right, ladies, your supplies that you have to have for your feminine products. So when you talk about the elephant in the room and they're talking about other things that you can't buy houses, your rent going to go up because they're gouging on prices for those of you that are leasing, paying rent, looking to rent. That's why some of us have our children staying at home that are 20, 30, 40 years old. They're moving back to the house with you. That's why you look at all of these sales that they're saying doing, Labor Day and doing the 4th of July and Christmas and all of this on brand new cars. No, let me help you understand. That's why you're paying so much taxes when it's time for you to go and renew the sticker on your car. Let me help you understand. So if you don't really know what's going on and don't understand what's really taking place, and you look at the different candidates, and then another thing that Evangelist briefly touched on when you talk about the elephant in the room, pastors, you need to talk about this because when Paul said that the man of God need to be thoroughly furnished unto all good works, these some of your good works, not just the word of God. We have to deal with this because when you go back to Acts chapter 6, it wasn't just the feeding program and making sure you have all of these ministries. We have one of the greatest ministries here, one of the biggest ministries that do a lot of feeding here in Florida. It's called Must Ministries, and they do a lot. But at the end of the day, you don't just do feeding and making sure people got beds and all of those other things. Are you making sure? And they do a lot. They make sure some homeless folk, they deal with veterans and all of that other good stuff. But at the end of the day, and they do make sure folk learn how to manage money, build money, get money, and all those other good things. But at the end of the day, they also are both profit and nonprofit. That nonprofit side, still have to go out and get money so that they can continue to work the nonprofit side. But at the end of the day, I want you to think about something. When you look at the whole thing in a nutshell, and you understand the living on your job and all the other stuff that they're pointing out. If you look at one candidate, they're trying to make sure that those things that were put in place for fair housing for everybody and for you to get housing if you are never bought a house, looking to buy a house, first time house buyer, been in a house. When you look at interest rate, whether you have a adjustable rate, which is called an ARM, whether you have a fixed rate, whether you have, a mortgage that you have just now renewed and what have you, you have to look at some things. What is your interest rate on it? Are you paying a double digit or are you paying a single digit? Have you looked to buy a house? Do you need down payment assistance? They're not looking to do that because you got to look at, you have one candidate that don't care whether you live or die. And I'm saying that because if you listen to things that are said, you have another candidate that's looking to make sure you have the interest in mind. You have one candidate that is looking to try to get you out of debt and keep you out of debt and teach you. Now, if you get back in debt, that's your own fault. But I'm going to show you how to get out of that. You have one candidate that is trying to show you, listen, this is where I came from, so I understand where you are, I understand your position. I can't guarantee you that when I first get in, it's going to be like that because I got to work some things. Because what you got to look at is that each candidate now have to work what has already been in there from previous administrations. And previous administrations automatically now have to take on what the previous administration has. So now the present administration going in now got to deal with the fallout what the last administration had. So if the last administration that was in had all kinds of things that had not been completed, things that they were trying to put in place, they had caused a whole lot of trouble. They had brought in a whole lot of debt. They were causing out of debt. Now I got to deal with the fact that now we're in a deficit. If they were bringing you out of deficit, now I've inherited us now coming out of a deficit and brought us into a gain. So I brought us out of the red and put us in the black. But if I have now inherited where we were going in the red, now I'm going to be considered that administration that have put us in a deficit. That's what you have right now with the administration that is getting ready to go out come November 5th, whoever it is that win the vote. So the previous administration that was in there, what happened was they area the following the administration that was there before, and you enjoyed the benefits of them bringing you out of a deficit, out of what was there. And you claim for yourself while you tried to undo all the things that was a benefit for the American people because of what your agenda was. Now, each person has an agenda. Each person has what they go in to now says, here's what I plan on doing. There was no plan of action if you listen at what happened on Tuesday night. You will have to be prepared. You have to have a plan. You have to have a backup plan and a backup to the backup plan and a backup to the backup plan to make sure that when you go in, because that's always something that's going to take place, so you have to have a fail safe. You don't even have anything in place that says, here's how I'm going to make sure that in the event something does break out, our military is strong, our country is secure. None of those things were there because all you talked about was yourself, me, myself, and I, not the American people. You didn't put anything in place that secured your military, your police, your country, your borders. You didn't put anything in place that says your people will all be satisfied, whatever race, whatever gender, whatever creed. You only concerned about the wealthy. You were concerned. Go ahead. But you know what I look at. And welcome to all of you that are with us tonight, Nikki and Kenya and Chelsea. Thank you, women of God, for joining us tonight. And all of you that we can't see that are with us tonight, we do welcome you all tonight to the seat at the table. We are talking about the elephant that's in the room. And then you ladies, this is a big deal for you because the last thing, and I don't mean to cut you off, let me just say this real quick so you can take over. You women need to really think about, if you haven't, and I know you have, it's imperative. I was raised by women. It's imperative. You have somebody that don't care about you. And I'll say that and let Evangelist take over here. One of the biggest things that I know you probably saying that our time is short, but our time is not short. Our time has been well spent because I still have to work tomorrow. But one of the things I do want to say is that if one of the biggest things that I look at and listening to conversation, because anybody that know me know I have no affiliation to no party. I have no affiliation to no party, but I am a voter. And I personally believe in, and it wasn't until I moved to the state of Florida that I can't vote in the 2-year election because I'm not affiliated with a party. That's a way of keeping you from voting. Let me go ahead and say that off the gate because I've never heard that a day in my life until we moved here. The second thing I want to say is that we still have to remember there's a state level and there's a federal level. And whenever I hear people talk, I listen to the ignorance that you have forgot everything that you learned in school. And if you have forgot it, go research. You don't have to be ignorant and you don't have to talk ignorant because it's too much information out here for us to be ignorant. It's free at the Library of Congress. So whenever we look at it, we should be voting in every election. You should be researching every person that is running for your district court. You should be researching every person that is running to be superintendent, county commissioner of the areas that you live in, because these people make the economic decisions for your area, not the president, your local government. Especially your schools and everything. Not only your local government, but your state government. You should be investigating these people because these people make the decisions for your infrastructure, for the streets that you drive on. The federal government can say all the money that they're going to send to your area, but if your governor say he don't want it, you won't get it. So therefore, we should not be ignorant in 2024. Now, whenever our grandparents was coming along, they pretty much had to go by what Billy Bob said or what Kennedy said or what somebody else said. They had to go by what you said. It's too much information out here now for you to look at and see what's going on. Freedom of Information Act. Yes. So you have too many places that you can go to really look
and listen to what these people are saying on your behalf. Do not sit there and be fooled in thinking that you go vote every 4 years for your presidential election and you think life is going to change. Life does not change that way. You have to vote every 2 years for your Senate. You have to vote for your congressman, that's state and federal, because these are the people that's making decisions for you. Because whenever you look at it, whenever I lived in Georgia and my income was too strong for me to receive assistance with health insurance for myself, but my kids was able to get it. And whenever the people was talking to me, they said, because of the state that you live in, you fall in that gap where you make too much of money for Medicaid, but you don't make enough of money to qualify to get these insurance. You know what? Everybody kept saying Obama, Obama, Obama. No, it wasn't Obama. It was the governor, the governor, the governor. So whenever we look at these things, let us take accountability for us that did not go vote every 2 years for our local government and for our state government. Let us take ownership and accountability for that. Let us look and say that it's our fault that these people got in because we didn't care enough about what it is that we had to have done. Let us also look at the fact and let us say, those of us that did go and we voted because so and so was black or so and so was this. I don't care what color they is. If they don't care about you, you don't need to be voting for them. You better listen and listen well to what people are saying and do your own research. Don't go with nobody else saying. Mm-hmm. Because whenever push comes to shove, if that person does not represent you, it is your own fault. Put the accountability back on yourself because you chose not to do anything about it. Because let me help you out. There are some things that's on the table, and there are some people up there lobbying for what it is that they want. A lot of us don't have the money to go lobby for what we want. We don't go and talk for ourselves. I was sitting down listening to a conversation today, and I was listening to some officers talking because they're getting ready to go up for what is it where they increase your pay based on the cost of living, a cost of living increase. And one of the people that was talking said, you know why we don't get an increase like that? Because we don't go represent ourselves whenever the county commissioners are having their meetings. We allow the big heads to go talk for us and we don't go speak for ourselves. Well, tonight, let me help you out. We don't go lobby for what we want. We allow other people to go do it. So we sitting back grumbling and complaining about what's not getting done. Let us take accountability and say, it's my fault. Because I didn't take enough of interest in what it is that I needed. So I pray that you heard something that will insist and encourage you to make you go look and search for yourself. Don't go by what somebody else said. You don't need nobody to coerce you to do anything because most of us that went to school now, we can read. We can do our own research. If you got a cell phone and you got Google and you got Siri, you can talk to those apps and those apps will pull up everything that you want to know. And if you don't know how to do that, some of us still know how to work the Dewey Decimal System. So we can go to the library and start pulling out books for us to understand the structure of how things really go and quit acting like we're blind to what's really going on. Because we don't have to be naive in 2024. We have all went to school. Most of us got diplomas. And if you ain't got a diploma, you got a GED. You can read.
And even if you didn't finish high school, if you went as far as the 10th grade, 9th grade, that suggests to me that you have enough learning to read. And you heard us say Google, Siri. So even if you don't feel your reading level is good enough, you got a little button on the phone and it'll read it to you. You can press it and it'll read the information for you. Then we have kids that can read it for us. So at the end of the day, you don't have no excuse. One of the laws that is out there, there's no ignorance to the law. then Paul tells us that let every man be persuaded by his own opinion. We've been persuaded by everybody else's
Everybody's
opinion.
opinion.
So when you hear the information for yourself, then now it's left up to you to make the choice of which direction you're going to go. For too long and for too many years, we have allowed other people to push us in the direction that they wanted us to go. It is high time that we stop going the direction that others want us to go, and we make the decision on which direction we want to go. Hey, Apostle, I saw you was calling me earlier, man. I was trying to get my blood pressure down. My son cooked this morning and had my blood pressure up high, so I'll call you when we get off of here tonight. So listen, you have to make that call, and as people, as believers, as people, period, not just those that are in the body of Christ, but people, period, it is imperative. It should have been a long time ago, not just now, during the time of our parents, after our parents, when we became parents, when we got old enough to go to the voting booth ourselves, we should have been standing on it. It's time for us to stop saying, I'm not going out there, I'm not going voting. The reason why our communities are in the shape that they're in, you know, you wasn't the one that voted your commissioner in, your senator in, your whoever it is that is over your county or your area or your district leader. The reason why your districts are the way they are is because you're not holding them accountable. Hold them accountable for what they did. Okay, maybe you didn't vote for them, maybe you didn't go to the poll, but you still have the right to hold them accountable for what they're doing because they have in their hand all of what you need. You heard her talk about infrastructures, roads, schools, buildings. They have in their hands how things are supposed to go, the finances, the funding, and everything that are there. That all of that money is there. It's allocated for a reason, recreation, and all of that. There's money that is sent for all of these recreational uses. And guess what? If the money is not put in the right places, they're sending it to the places that they wanted to go. And you don't even realize that that money is going to white neighborhoods or uppity neighborhoods. The reason why I'm saying uppity neighborhoods because that money has been allocated for everywhere. Hey, cuz, how you doing? So now, if you're not going to these board meetings, same thing when it comes down to schools. There's money that has been allocated by your state for all of the schools. And if you're not there, I'm sorry. One of my cousin is on now. Callan tell you, my cousin Greg and a lot of others, they make sure that the money goes to the proper schools, the right schools, and these schools are being now these schools are now in positions that they get the right funding. Funding is going in the right place for the right books, for the right teachers. The teachers are getting what they're needed, being used for the right things. Herself, her children, they all work in education. It is being done. So listen, the elephant in the room is sometimes our own self because we don't open our mouths. Our parents, our grandparents made sure that we're in position that we were not ignorant to the fact. And because they knew they couldn't, because you heard what Evangelist said, Billy Bob. We're not under Billy Bob's hand, foot, none of that no more. You have a mouth now. You can get up and speak. You don't have to worry about somebody silencing your voice. Your voice now is at the poll. They fought for a reason. That was the other part of what Evangelist wanted to talk about. You had all of these folk that got out and they made sure that they put you in position. You had black, you white, and he was 15, 16, 17 years old out on the front line marching 50, 60, 70, 100 miles to make sure that you had a right to do the things you needed. Ride on certain transit systems, ride in certain kind of cars, fly on certain kind of planes, eat in certain places. One young man just last weekend when college football started off, he's at one of the colleges down in North Carolina. His grandfather was one of the people that sat at Woolworth that did the set-in. His grandfather is still alive, and he's at the HBCU in North Carolina, and he's doing everything he can, get ready to graduate soon. What are we doing to make sure and ensure that we are making an impact for what they did? Are we just celebrating the holidays when they come around? They're now trying to make a national holiday because we all know what happened on 9/11. I have no problem with it doing that. But are we making an impact because of what happened? The unit that I was a part of in the military, they gave me a phone call. My captain, Barry Franks, called me while I was on my seat truck on 9/11 and look, get a backpack, the unit been activated, they may call you. Be on standby. So listen, at the end of the day, we got to be at a place to do something. That's right. Stand on business, stand on the word of God. How can we say that, God is for us? You going to holler about if God is for us, who can be against? That's what our mouth say. Is that what we doing? Come on. Is that how we living? Bernie Mac always said, who you with and how you living. So who are we really with? How are we really living? You heard us say about seasons, about times, about purpose. There's a time, there's a season, and there's a purpose under heaven. You holler about this is your winning season. Your winning season is all the time if you still have breath in your body. Your purpose is all the time as long as you got breath in your body. Your harvest is all the time as long as you got breath in your body. The time has always been now. So what are you really doing with it? Not just because it's growing, because you're growing and you don't even know it. Your hair grows and you don't even see it. Your skin is replenishing itself and you don't even see it. It's dying and living at the same time. Go wash your hands and then turn around 5 seconds later and wash your hands again. Take a bath now, turn around 20 minutes later and take a bath. And it's going to look like it. I'm talking about just sit down on the sofa and go in the bathroom 20 minutes later and take another bath. And you're going to wonder what happened. You have cells that are dying off of your body. And you didn't do nothing but sit on the sofa in the nice cool air, didn't go anywhere, didn't go outside, didn't do no work, but the tub is dirty again because there are dead skin cells that are falling off your body. And they're steady replenishing themselves because cells steady multiply and divide. They live and they die. So there's a harvest always going on. Same thing on the inside of your body. Cellular structure steady go on. So there's always a harvest going on the inside of you. So you always are in your winning season as long as you are living. Every time you do something, every breath you take, there's life and death taking place. So the elephant that's in the room, we've addressed many things tonight. What are you going to do with it? Not just November 5th, and everybody ain't got to be out there promoting you. And it's good what everybody doing. I love it. 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 So tell me why all of these superstars got to get up and tell you what you should have did. As the old folks used to say, get off your rusty dusty and do something. The preacher shouldn't have to always tell you, get off your rusty dusty and do something. God ain't got to put you in position and allow something to happen for you to figure, I got to get saved. I need to go to church. Church is you. You don't just have to go to the building. The building is where we assemble together to now glorify, praise, and wait for God to usher us into his presence so we can worship him, where we can receive a word from the Lord so we can get the strength that we need. So what you going to do? The elephant in the room is really us. In addressing the things that our parents used to address to us. You scared to tell your child, put the phone down, turn it off, give me the phone. You scared to argue with them? You ain't got to argue with them. If you bought it, you scared to let them know here's how it's going to be because it's your house?
I would just sort of say that because I don't care who bought it. If it's in my house, it's my rules.
Yeah, you in my house. I'm sorry. If you don't want to do what need to be done and you live under my roof, you ain't paying. And even if you pay toward the electric bill, I'm sorry, you still in my house. Now, when you get your house, you can do what you want to do. Because that's what my mom always said. You live in my house. Get your own house, do whatever you want. But when you get your house, guess what? I see many kids do the opposite of what they do in their parent house. So why you figure you can do what you want to do in my house? No, 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 no. No, 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 no. And you need to get out. Go make you a tent out in the yard. Go live in the yard. Dig you a hole. I give you a shovel. You can use the bathroom. I got a lake behind the house, so you can take a bath. I give you a towel and some soap. Take a bath in the lake.
There's alligators out there. Turtles. Mm-mm.
I give you a stick to fight them off. Because if you want to do you want to do in my house and you can't follow my rules, then you got to get out. My daddy did that to me. And when I got my own, I didn't do that because I had to think about it. Wait a minute. You can't just do whatever you want to do in your own house. Mm-hmm. That's not how it goes. It's got to have a standard. It's got to have some boundaries and borders. It's got to have some rules. It's got to have a set of principles. Do you have principles? Do you have borders? So what's the elephant in the room? And then we start addressing the fact that you can do what you see in the movies. These kids gonna die if you shoot them. You slice somebody's throat, they ain't coming back. They don't get up like in the movies and then it's all over because they done made, a couple $100,000, few $1,000,000. No, they not getting up. You ain't seeing no spirit floating in the air and saying this, that, and no, that's a movie. You ain't running over somebody and they getting back up after it's done. That's right, cuz. That's right, Marcus. You're right. Because at the end of the day, I'm sorry. That ain't how I roll. And that's how it happened in Morgan City. You're right. Because you're right. Old school parent. That's how it happened in Morgan City, in Gibson, Danville. That's how it happened in the Cold Shoot. Hey, Peterville. Just name some places. That's how it happened where you was from, right? That's how it happened where my wife from in North Carolina. So at the end of the day, you got to have that. If we don't, we're going to continue to lose our kids. And I'm glad there's still a lot of old school, and I'm glad there's still a lot of old school teachers back home where I'm from. If they go back to that. We got to go back to the old landmark. We left it, but we got to go back. My daughter said the other day, we going off air with this, she said that we stopped, they took prayer out of school.
She said when they took prayer out of school, schools got crazy.
Because y'all remember, Marcus, Carolyn, my wife, myself, we remember we used to start school off with prayer. Then they went to silent prayer.
Moment of silence. Mm-hmm.
Then they took the moment of silence out as well. So when we left God, all of these things started happening. So when we go back to that and we let God back in, then God will fix it. So God bless you tonight. God bless you tonight. Got anything else?
Now, we've shared a lot of things with you. We talked a lot of issues that's actually going on. One of the biggest things, let us remember, we all have difference of opinion, but do your own research. You ain't got to argue with nobody. You ain't got to fight with nobody. Have your own mind. God has given us a lot of knowledge, and it's up to us to use it. We love you. We love you. We love you. I was supposed to do another video on tonight, but I am tired after working
about 12
tomorrow.
hours.
I will do it tomorrow. But we love you all. God bless you. Please join us and the kids tomorrow for our morning worship experience. I understand that it's football season, so everybody's pretty much gonna be watching the game. As I know, my husband will be on trying to find the Saints game tomorrow at 1:00 because I done told him the Saints play on Sunday, so I know he's gonna be somewhere trying to watch the Saints.
Well, y'all know when the purple and gold win, the black and gold gonna win, and the purple and gold won today. So LSU won today. Y'all know the Saints gonna win tomorrow. So God bless y'all tonight. I'll holler at y'all tomorrow, 11:25. So purple and gold won today, y'all. Purple and gold won. Y'all know black and gold gonna win tomorrow. So